Shark finning, a tradition that needs to be stopped. Plenty of global issues have been brought to the public's attention in recent years. Most of these issues relate to human activities that have adverse effects on the environment and the wildlife that inhabit those ecosystems. Some examples of these issues that have recently come up are industrial farming in places like California, fossil fuel drilling and usage, and the overall industrialization of the world. The issue that I will be talking about today is shark finning, which is the act of overfishing the ocean's apex predators only to cut off their fins and use in food dishes like shark fin soup. Unlike other environmentally harming foods, like caviar production, sharks are apex predators of their ecosystems and are hard to breed for more sustainable farming. These two factors make shark finning one of the biggest threats to our oceans, and they both make other effects of overfishing even worse. With all of these points being made, shark finning and fishing needs to be banned globally or heavily regulated until shark populations have been given a chance to recover, or until a sustainable farming system can be put in place. So why is shark finning even done in the first place? To put it bluntly, shark finning is practiced for foods that are considered delicacies in primarily Asian cultures. Chinese emperors have eaten shark fin soup for centuries, and shark fins are considered a sign of wealth and social status of the consumer. Shark fin soup is also considered to have medicinal and healing values, just like the ivory tusks from elephants or rhinos. Since shark fin soup is so desirable, it carries a high price, which incentivizes fishermen to catch even more sharks to get more fins. The issue that really arises here because of the fact that the shark meat itself is one of the cheapest meats that the fishermen can sell, so they will only cut off the fins and dump the sharks back into the ocean, since it isn't economically viable for them to bring back an entire animal. According to an article from the Smithsonian entitled "Shark Finning: Sharks Turned Prey," the finned sharks are often thrown back in the ocean alive, where they do not die peacefully. Unable to swim properly and bleeding profusely, they suffocate or die of blood loss. While this is a terrible way for the sharks to die, raising an argument about animal cruelty, this is surprisingly not the biggest issue associated with this practice. The same article then goes into detail about the statistics of shark finning. They state, approximately 100 million sharks are killed globally each year, and one of the main incentives for this is the shark trade. This number is an alarming statistic, and it gets even worse as the article goes on. They mention a statistic which states that a certain shark species could have experienced a decline of 60 to 70% from the shark fishing industry. With such large numbers of shark species dying, the second large concern comes into light. Sharks are usually the apex predators of their ecosystems, meaning that they have no natural predators and are meant to only die from natural causes, rather than being hunted by other animals. When an apex predator dies, it sends a shockwave down the entire food chain, allowing other species to overbreed and overpopulate the ecosystem. This then affects the next tier down, and so on until it reaches the last tier of the food chain. This phenomenon is called a trophic cascade. Without apex predators, all other levels of the food chain go unchecked, causing major issues. Once this cascade hits the bottom level, especially in the ocean, some species are way too overpopulated while others are on the verge of extinction. This will also actually affect humans, because then our fisheries are unable to catch nearly as many desirable species which we regularly eat. That same Smithsonian article brings up this point, saying, for instance, the loss of the smooth hammerhead causes their prey, rays, to increase. The larger ray population now eats more scallops, clams, and other bivalves. It also harms human fisheries. The article then goes on to talk about how sharks are extremely valuable as ecotourism attractions, like how people go whale watching, swim with the sharks, or go sightseeing in tropical locations. With both of these points combined, the article cited a study from the University of British Columbia, which came up with an estimate of how much a single hammerhead shark is worth. For both ecotourism and food chain production, the shark is worth about $1.6 million, compared to the $200 that its meat is sold for at markets. Circling back to the concept of a trophic cascade, since all levels of the food chain are affected, it leaves some overpopulated species to start eating animals that they wouldn't usually. An example of this is actually orcas, who have had their own food chain decimated by human fishing practices. So now they are starting to hunt other animals that they have never hunted before. One of the species that they have actually taken a liking to is the great white shark. making the issue of shark populations even worse, as they are not only being overfished by humans, but are now being hunted by an unnatural predator attacking their population from both sides. With such a grim situation at hand, how can shark populations recover? And are we at a point of no return, where certain species of sharks will potentially go extinct or not be able to fully recover? The answer might actually be simpler than you think. According to an article titled Coastal Sharks Supply the Global Shark Fin Trade, researchers have found that the majority of all sharks whose fins are cut off are actually coastal species rather than out in the middle of the ocean. Why is this considered a breakthrough, and why is it good? It was previously believed that the majority of shark finning was taking place in more open ocean settings, which are much harder to control and regulate. Since coastal sharks are actually finned more, it is slightly easier to govern the waters closer to the coast, which should allow countries to increase their local shark fishing regulations, and hopefully slow the rate at which shark populations are decreasing, at least in these coastal areas. Although it won't fix the entire issue at once, it is a very promising discovery that can make a start at reversing the effects of shark finning. So why haven't people been able to start farming sharks sustainably? With other foods like caviar, there have already been people who have figured out how to farm sturgeon and keep their populations from being overfished, so consumers can still enjoy their caviar with no worries about the species. The main reason why sharks haven't been farmed yet is because they are incredibly difficult to keep in captivity. Huge tanks would need to be built and kept to high standards for the sharks to survive. Specific diets would need to be kept, and overall it would take a huge amount of time to even keep the sharks alive for a long period of time. Great whites would also be unable to be kept in captivity, as they don't survive for a long time. Beyond this, sharks have a gestation period, which is the amount of time that a shark is in an egg, of about 2 years. From there, it can take about 10 years for sharks to mature. With both of these arguments in place, one can see that as of right now, it isn't viable for people to sustainably farm sharks and leave their ocean populations alone. Seeing as there isn't a way to start farming sharks successfully, the only way to slow the decline of their population is either through heavy regulation or an outright ban on the shark fishing industry for the foreseeable future. This has actually been done in the past to help whale populations recover. The International Whaling Commission, the IWC, has introduced a moratorium on the hunting of whales in 1985, and it is still in place today. According to Discover Wildlife, an affiliate of the BBC, they have stated that some of the big species that hunters have historically targeted, such as fin and humpback whales, are increasing in some regions. The population of the blue whale is also recovering. If a moratorium has worked in the past to help whale populations, then it could definitely help with the shark situation. Stricter port regulations and boat searches would also help catch people who are still fishing for sharks. Without many other options, a shark fishing ban is the only viable solution and a way forward to tackle this issue. Action needs to be taken immediately. Thank you.